Let's just go for it. All right, Dr. Lauren. I just want to make sure I don't. It's Petria. I want to make sure I don't
Yes,
miss it. Yes,
you
Dr.
got it. You
Lauren
got it.
Petria. We're live right now on Battlefield of the Mind. We're going to do a quick meet and greet, and I know we're doing more later with this one. But Dr. Lauren Petria, I know that you are one of the co-authors of Fearless Female Leaders, but then also you've done a lot of stuff when it comes to education, society, like the whole community in this. And I have too many questions for the next 45 minutes, but please
Okay.
introduce yourself and then let's jump in, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. And hi, Rick. My name is Lauren Petria, and I'm an executive director of talent acquisition at Aldi and ISD, which is one of the largest school districts in the country. We have 84 schools and we have about 4,800 teachers. We serve about 62,000 students. And my job is to make sure that we staff all of our schools. And that means teachers, paraeducators, secretaries, all of those positions, and then make sure that we really work on our retention to keep our best, and then also recruit talents from all over the country. And it's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor. And like, I think that we were getting into a really cool conversation too, when it comes to just the education world and being able to speak, like, especially in your experience or knowledge. Cause a lot of, like, we're parents too. I've got 3 teenage girls. And we've had to go in and have like battles of just what is right in an area right now where it seems like it's turning into more of a subjective conversation versus a dialogue or an understanding. Can you please maybe help clear some of the air for us parents who are like, well, what's going on behind the scenes before they just start attacking the principal and attacking the superintendent and attacking everybody? Like, what's going on here? And maybe you can shed some light for understanding.
Yeah. And so I actually want to give you guys a little bit of background of why I wanted to be a teacher. So my mom, after my father passed away, moved my brother and I to the United States. And I didn't speak any English, so didn't even know the alphabet. And my mom just plopped me into this school as a 4th grader, and I didn't know how to navigate the school system. And within a year or two, I was able to acclimate and speak the language and navigate much better than my mom. So I became kind of the mom, and she actually was letting me kind of take the lead. And from there, what I experienced was, as a child, I could see which students were getting more attention. So someone like me, I was invisible. My mom never reached out to school. She never volunteered. I never caused problem. I just sat there and took notes. And what I've learned from being in education as a student was that certain students got special treatments and certain students were left behind. And then I became a teacher, and I saw, firsthand experience how certain kids get selected to go into certain teachers' classrooms, and how principals were spending more time with certain parents that are raising money for the schools. And that has been my passion, to make sure that not only our students are treated well, but our teachers are also supported, and they understand the clear expectations from the school district, so that we can really do our job well. No child should go to school and feel like they're invisible. So some of the main things that I always tell parents when I, have an opportunity to talk to them is, you learn by doing it. So I often have meetings with kids with special needs. I always tell parents and also teachers. So I can watch a soccer player play soccer. I can read about it. Someone can tell me about it. But only way I'm going to be a better soccer player is actually to play soccer, right? That is really the best way. So if you have a child that's struggling in reading, you can read to your kid. Absolutely, that helps. You can listen to the audio, you can take classes, but really the best way for your child to become better reader is to read. And I always emphasize that, so that people understand, like, that's like number one way of getting better. And research shows that when a child is not reading at grade level by 2nd grade, that child is going to struggle. So that's why early intervention is so important. And when I was a school principal, I made sure that my primary team really understand how to teach reading and could really assess students' needs, so that we could create a really good intervention plan. Now, if a student is struggling in math and they're not grade level by 4th grade, they're going to struggle. That's why it's so important for school districts to ensure that they provide resources really for those young kids. That's one. Second thing I always emphasize is interpreters. So we have a lot of families from different countries, and parents don't know this. You can request someone to translate for you. It doesn't have to be Spanish. You can be German, French, Japanese. And the thing is, these parents don't ask for it because they don't know it. And so there's so many things that I always say, if you have a friend that is a school administrator, sit down with them and have conversation that I'm having with Rick, because I can go on, and then Rick's going to be like, oh my gosh. And so, but these are some things that I always want to inform parents that you have rights to do those things.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So helpful. I just want to make sure I did the thing you said Rick was going to do. Oh my gosh. There's a few things on here. You said, as you noticed what students were getting more attention, and you said you noticed how kids are selected for special treatment. I don't know much about that. How are they selected? I don't know what you mean. Like, how are they chosen?
So even when I was a teacher, I would get a little tap in the shoulder and say, hey, make sure you select this student to be your, class lead, or for this part in a play. And, I would have either sometimes teachers saying that mom is very difficult, so you kind of just want to let her have it. Or you have, principal saying, this mom is the president of PTA or booster club, and, you don't want to, ruffle the feathers. I never allow that. And I had those very powerful, influential, involved parents, getting in my face, getting upset with me. And I always relay back to my clients or my students. I've had parents sending me an email of everything they do for the school. So you have different types of volunteers. You have volunteers that volunteer because they genuinely care about the school and the kids. You have people that volunteer because they want favoritism for their children. And right away when the first time you say no. So they're all very nice to you, those people that are trying to get something from you. And the first time you say, no, I'm not doing that for you or your child or, for your family. And then you'll get an email with the list of things that they have done for your school and how much money they have raised, and also their resume and educational background. A
Not,
good teacher,
not
it
that they're
doesn't matter.
keeping score, though. Not that they're keeping.
Absolutely not, right? And a really good teacher with good moral compass is able to say, thank you so much for what you do for our school, but I am going to make my decision based on, and then that's what you do. And that is very hard to do.
Well, even just a sentence, having a great moral compass has become very subjective. And that's also become very difficult too, because our belief systems, and this is what I write on and I work in the most, is our belief systems. But the thing that's interesting about truth is that in order to be true, all it really requires is agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't actually have to even have a fact, because you can have an entire belief system that doesn't require any facts. And so truth now becomes like, well, we agree that that's true, so that must be, even if it has no evidence. And so here we are with a teacher who their truth and their moral compass and their belief systems are all routed in whatever it is that they have been bought into for their beliefs. And
Right.
now that becomes highly subjective with what a good moral compass is.
Right. And it's just sad. And the other thing that, I think about a lot is parenting and student school experience. So, I read somewhere recently that 80% of our students, when you ask them, like, do you think your parents love you more if you get better grades, and they love you less when you don't get the grades that they expect? 80% of students actually answered, yes, my mom and my dad, they love me more when I do better in school. And
Interesting.
that is not the case, right? Like you said, you have 3 daughters. I don't think you're going to love your daughter less if you have one that's not doing great in school. That is not really how it is. But the fact that kids believe that, that is something that parents really need to think about, what kind of conversations they have at home. So I think that's very important. Two, one of the most important factor of being a successful person is who you surround yourself with. So if your child has friends that are making poor choices, or their home do not check in and make sure that the kids are really being monitored and supported, those are things that you need to really think about. Because like I, as a school administrator, has a doctorate in education. I wasn't thinking about that when I first moved to Houston. I'm new to Houston. It's over a little over 2 years. And I was so excited for my son to make new friends that even though I saw red flags, so I would have all these kids over, send a text to parents and say, I just fed them. And I would get a text from mom like, oh, I didn't know where my kid was. I'm so glad he was at your house. He's a sixth grader. You should know that. Or when I'm texting parents saying it's getting dark, they rode their bike. Like, are you picking your child up? And they're like, no, he could ride bike, in the dark. That's a red flag. And I am now really trying to practice what I preach because it's so easy for me to tell everyone, these are all the things you should be doing. But I myself was making mistakes. And I have to tell myself, no, it is so important for me to know the families, know my kids' friends, and have conversation with my child about importance of doing good work, but also I love you no matter what, and I'm here for you. And I know parents are so busy, but we need to take the time to do that as well.
All right, that was a pretty complicated stack. I think people may not completely get what you just did. So I'm going to take a couple of the pieces out, get back to the friends and then the parenting aspect. But you did mention too, like having the three girls, and I'm loved for my grades.
Mhm.
And one thing that we've just knowing how the studies go for educating. What are your thoughts? I'll share my story after, but what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on like we praise effort, we don't praise results, and then having a grade system in general?
Yeah, so I think most people are pretty familiar with Carol Dweck's work from Stanford University. I have a colleague who's actually working with her closely right now at UT. And it's all about growth mindset and fixed mindset. And this whole study, and it's brilliant. And if you haven't read the book, read Carol Dweck's book, The Growth Mindset. It's a really, really great book. And I've done a book study with my teachers when I was a principal in California. And the book talks about how we praise our children. When you tell your kids, you're smart, you're smart, you're smart, they're going to take that as when something gets hard, they're not smart. And even I have done dissertation and thesis on gifted education. And when you tell gifted students, oh, you're so smart, you learn faster than other kids, they're going to take it as when things get hard, they shouldn't push through. It's actually us complimenting the effort students make. You worked really hard on that assignment because I saw you doing A, B, and C, or I know that this was challenging for you, but you used this strategy to work through that, or let me show you one way we can work on this together. Those are the best ways to communicate with your children because the message you're sending is that you can learn. Growth mindset means you can learn and you can improve. Fixed mindset is no matter what you do, this is where you're going to be. And as parents, it's so important for us to role model that.
Yeah, I agree. We've been doing it with our daughters. I watched Carol's TED Talk a couple of years ago, and
Yeah.
we've been implementing that too. And like another way we've done that, and also is like we have athletes, but they're also all our girls are high academic performers. Like they're like over 4.0s. And so it's not because though that we're big on grades, because I'm I'm the most lax on grades. Like Andrew's like, hey, I hope you did good, but these girls work harder for themselves than I ever require of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, are you gonna pass still? And they're like, well, yeah, I got like a 4.2. I'm like, I'm not worried about the 4.2. Are you at least doing your best and you're gonna pass? I was like a BC student, so I'm like, listen, I'm not as concerned. I could never get a. You're doing better than I could ever do.
Yeah.
So there was that aspect, but I do praise my girls for like how hard did you try?
Yep.
And so one example is our middle daughter. She's been trying different sports. She's an athlete. She's really good at basketball and she's fantastic at volleyball. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, I never did track before. I'm gonna try it. We're like, okay, well, she's taller. So they're like, you're on hurdles. And she's like, I don't like that at all. And they're like, it's okay. You got it. And she's like, probably not. All right. So here she goes, and she's doing hurdles. And let's just say our beautiful middle daughter is the one who would hit the hurdles, face plant, scorpion fall, kick herself in the back of the head, just wipe out in front of everybody. And this was race after race, just smashing, right? Just crashing all over these hurdles. Just super embarrassing for her, right? But she would
Yeah.
get up and then she would still finish her race and she'd be like, all scraped up. And she's like, did it, like one of those things. And some parents would be like, damn, 8th place again, last place again, damn it.
Mhm.
But I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm like, I don't care if you got first or last place. What I'm the most proud of you for is that you have the type of character that when you fall down, you get up and then you finish your race. And I could not be more proud of you for being that kind of person.
Mhm.
And it's that kind of stuff where by the end of the season, she was getting second place and stuff, but it wasn't because I was trying to get her to win the race. It's because I
Mhm.
was proud of her for putting in the effort and having that mindset of, I'm going to keep going, even though sometimes I'm going to fall down, but we get
Mhm.
up and just keep going. It doesn't matter when you finish, and I'm proud of you. And
Yeah.
it's made our girls are doing very well in all of their sports because we praise practice. And they'll come in, they'll be like, look at my workout gains. I'm like, yeah, you've been working hard. I'm proud of you for what you're putting in. Keep going.
Right.
Not going, you made it, you did it, you're the winner.
Right. And good sportsmanship matters so much. Um, I heard from a coach that most children quit sport on the ride back home with their parents. And the reason is because parents critique everything that the child did wrong. And it is so stressful that that's when the kid's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I think it's so important for parents to, give them kudos for the effort that they're making. And it's not always about winning. I have a friend who's a scout for a baseball team. And he said often he would go and he would hear about the best athletes and he would go so excited to see the kid. But if the child also has a bad attitude towards the teammates or towards the coach, or just not grateful for how good this person is and arrogant, he said he would walk away. And the parents would chase him to the parking lot and say, well, I thought you came to like see my kid. Like, what's going on? And my friend's like, well, it's how he carried himself. Like, I don't want somebody who's going to act like that on our team because sportsmanship matters. And I think one of the most important thing that we can teach our children is empathy and kindness. And instead of, saying you're the best, you're the most special, we really need our children to think about how they can contribute to the community. And the best way to do that is when we role model it. Like same as like I can tell my kid, I want you to read 30 minutes every day. Like at my house, I read and he reads. He reads his book, I read my book. And so I model it. I go volunteer at different philanthropical projects. I, include him in things or I tell him about it. And I think it's so important for us to model kindness and empathy if we want our children to have that as well. And, even private college admission. So we have a lot of parents who are like, I want my kid to go to these universities. When they do interviews, they're watching your child, how your child is coming into the interview, how your child is speaking to, the secretary as they check in, how they end the interview. And I read about a kid who had a teacher from his school come on a Saturday so he can be interviewed for this Ivy League school. And he never thanked the staff member for, hey, thank you for coming on a Saturday. And that was the reason why he was not accepted. And I think it's so important for us to always help our children how to be a good person.
So many, you're just firing off all of these points that people are, I guarantee they're getting like one or two out of these, like just bombs you're dropping. All right, let me see if I can try and summarize this to see if I can say it in a different way.
Okay.
One thing what I noticed here is everything all the way back to the volunteer scorekeepers slash, let's call it what it is, manipulators of parents who try to control the
Mm-hmm.
school. The
Mm-hmm.
parents who critique their kids and they're going hard as far as like whether they're good or bad. You're doing it. I'm trying to, tell you how you could have done it better and why aren't you doing it? I want you to win. You need to be a winner. In our
Mm-hmm.
house, we're champions, you know, that kind of thing. And then being able to go through like who your friends can and can't be. It's an interesting game on this one, even when we get into the difficult moms and the nepotism that's in there too. One thing I'm seeing as a common denominator, if you look at all this, this is absent of the kindness empathy part. I'll get to that in a
Mhm,
second.
mhm,
Is all this stuff, if you're watching it, the parents who are like, I'm trying to be the difficult mom so that my kid can have a better life. I'll control the school. And I know that
mhm,
control is at the core of what most people's fears and things
mhm,
for. They're going to volunteer so they can control the faculty and you. They're going to
mhm,
control. They're going to send emails and try and control you with their emotions and what they believe they think is right.
mhm,
And if you look at all of these things, I'm going to try and control my kids' skills and abilities because I want them to get into a better school so they can have a better life. If you look at the very negative way these things are done, it seems like it's a combination of trying to control, doing our best, and having
mhm,
good intentions done in a terrible way.
mhm.
And it seems like if parents really took a second to realize, even your parents had the best of intentions, but a lot of times the best intentions create generational curses.
Right.
And this is what we're doing is each of these things is a toxic way to do something that you mean well.
Mhm.
And this is where people get confused is they think like, well, no, that's for helping my kid out and I want them to win and I want them to have a better education, I want them to succeed. And it's like, yeah, but you're trying to force compliance on the people who volunteered.
Right.
And maybe you're not getting it. That's not how that works. It's kind of like I'm going to force love. It's like, no, you don't force love. You fall in love. It's a surrender, not a demand. And so you're watching these people trying to say, I'm going to force you to be good. I'm going to force you to do this, which is that moral compass again. I
Right.
believe I know what is right because I just made up the rules for it.
Right.
Well, that's tricky. Now you said let's get into empathy and kindness. And let's
Mhm,
just say this is something this world is missing across the board, especially when
mhm,
we get into relationships. I just had a female coach live with us yesterday. We've done a few podcasts with her too. And
mhm,
one of the things I've noticed when I work with both men and women is the lack of empathy. I work with men, the lack of
mhm,
empathy in relationships for, women to men. And
mm,
this comes even at a young age, because
mhm,
also look at how much empathy there are for boys,
mhm,
especially teenage boys. That's when it
mhm,
changes from love you for being a boy to what are you
mhm,
going to provide as a man. And we start learning
mm,
our value changes very quickly. Well, this
mhm.
is very tough when it comes to just teaching empathy and kindness because where is it being removed? And it
Right.
seems like all levels.
Mhm.
Like everything from like I talked to a guy yesterday who just joined our men's group who one of his curses came from being completely dismantled and shamed when he was 8 years old in school from a girl who just shredded him in front of everybody,
Oh no.
just publicly humiliated him just for being like actually her entire shame attack was like
Mhm.
look at you, you're pathetic, look at your shoes, your haircut, look at who you are, why would anybody ever want to play with you?
Right.
And that he's like, I was 8, I had no defense, and that girl, that created a wrinkle in my brain that shaped the way that I interact with people.
Mhm.
So where does empathy and kindness come from? And also this 8-year-old girl learned that behavior from who?
From someone, most likely parent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this
Yeah.
is where a lot of times we're all doing our best, but damn it, are we destroying our kids no matter which way we're doing it? Because we think that our moral compass is right because it's my belief system. It does not need facts, does not need truth. I just
Mhm.
made it up. And then I'm gonna
Yeah.
now, no, Dr. Lauren, Petria, you guys, you have to deal. You have to fix it now.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people are leaving the profession. A lot of,
Mhm.
we have national teacher shortage. It's a crisis. People don't want to teach. Less people are getting into education. When I go and visit schools, I am blown away by how students are. You have some amazing kids that are really motivated to be there, and you have some kids that are just so disrespectful to teachers. And it has to be trained at an early age how they need to be. And, we do our best to be there every day, fresh start, because our job is to help those kids. But it gets hard. And when you gave that example of the podcast guest talking about his experience as an 8-year-old child, I'm sure you have experienced, and I have experienced, where people have not been very kind to us. And, the thing I say to myself is, because I don't respect you, like, what you say to me doesn't hurt me. Right. But I'm able to do that because I'm 42 years old, and I have life experience and work experience, and I'm confident in myself. I know who loves me and I know who I am. But, it happens. And what's really interesting is, so my husband is Caucasian. And I have noticed in California, when we used to live there, people knew that we're together. No one ever questioned that that's not my husband. Now, being in the Midwest and going to different places around here, people assume we're not together. Like, I find it fascinating. We would have lunch, and then the waitress would say, "Would you like to split your check?" Or I've had someone say something really nasty to me just because I was with my husband, which I'm not going to say on your podcast. But I do
Oh,
think,
this is not that kind of podcast. You can say whatever you want. I don't care. It's weird for us to say the warrior's way and we have to be super censored. You want to say something, feel free.
yeah, this woman just walked past by me and said, "Whore, slut." And it's my husband and I are
Why
walking
why
together.
would she talk to your husband like that? Why would she say that to him?
Maybe he was
Monstrous.
dressed like one. I don't know.
Listen, maybe he deserved it, whatever he was wearing.
Yeah, these men, right? But stuff like
Jeez.
that. And I walk away thinking, ignorant, probably unhappy with your life,
Sure.
and then I move on. And so things happen, and I just do that. And one of the most important thing I think we could also teach our children is resiliency. I don't know how I can navigate middle school now. Everything on social media, Snapchat, TikTok, to know everything you're not invited to, people writing mean comments to you, also seeing all these models, and thinking that this
Yeah.
is how you're supposed to look.
And you're not
Um,
even going to be close to that as a
no,
preteen.
and then also photoshopping. I mean, this is
Yeah.
edited. Like, no one looks that perfect. I'm sure there are a few, but and even the perfect, like, what's considered beautiful, the standards, right? And I feel so bad for the kids that are navigating
I
middle
got
school and high school
I
now.
got 3 of these things. I'm well aware. We have to do talks, but I think it's more of an exposure with explanation. But like you also know, as parents, we even if we are highly influential in their life, I would be happy and proud if I know I'm at least 10% of the
Mhm.
influence in there. If I make 10%, I'm gonna be like, "Shh, that's way higher than I thought." Like they're with their devices. They spend way more time with these than they do us, and it's not even by like we don't want to. It's just the reality of like that's the
Right,
thing that there is in this modern age. And so you're not wrong at all. But teaching
right,
resiliency also comes from being able to explain. But can we also be very real here? Even watching the social dilemma, the people who create the apps these kids are using are also like, it's out of control. We don't even let our kids use it. Like I can't even use it.
right,
The way that it's designed is designed to literally steal your life. That's what it's trying to do because it wants to get every minute you have. And it's like, well,
totally.
these kids don't have a single chance against this because the creators of the app are like, I can't beat it. I got to get out of there.
Yeah. And like back in the day when we were little, you come home and that's it. Your parents do not have to fight against outside factors like your home. I mean, internet came out when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So now I have my kid and I have to constantly check devices in. I have to constantly monitor what he's doing. And that's the reality. And for most parents, working parents, this is like a whole another job.
Hmm.
And so that's also very important too. So like for my family, we do sit down dinner, and I love to cook. And because I'm such a type A person, I plan out the menu for the week because I'm a very, very busy person. And we sit down together, and everything has to be put away, and it's dinner time, and it's forced. And I hope one day, because I have one son, he'll look back and say, I'm so glad my mom did that. Right now, it's not a cool thing. He's like, oh, my friends, parents, they let kids just grab whatever they want, and they could go watch TV, or we could
How
eat
old is
in
your
our
son?
room. He's 13.
Oh yeah,
Um,
listen, you know the psychology on a 13-year-old's phone. I don't have to, I don't have to give you wild numbers on this one. They've shown what a 13-year-old boy's phone is for. I think it was Dr. Height who's like, no, we know what the boys' phones are for. It's different for boys and girls with these phones.
mhm,
Here's the thing: is a teenage boy's phone, and it's so funny the ignorance of parents. So a teenage boy's phone, first off, is a mobile porn hub. Let's just call it what it
mhm,
is. The thing is, it's used for three things. It's used for sports, friends. Like,
mhm.
also, you could throw in games with sports games, friends, porn. That's what
Yep.
that thing is for. And so I remember one
Mhm.
lady when I was still working at Verizon Wireless. I remember a lady came in and she's like, there's somebody hacking my son's phone at night. I know that he's asleep. It is his bedtime. And
Yeah.
somehow someone is looking up naked pictures on his device when he is supposed to be sound asleep. And we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, somebody must be hacking his device to get these. Like, there's no other device that could find these photos except for
Right.
his phone. So it must be a hacker. A hacker
Yeah.
is getting him. We're
Yeah.
like, we're like, oh Lord, lady. No, that's your boy knows how to Google boobies. Like, no.
So when I was a middle school principal many years ago, I never thought I'd talk about penis as much as I had to. It's like somebody printed pictures of penis. Somebody wrote something with penis. Somebody's sending pictures of their genitalia to, all these things. And I told my husband, I said, oh my gosh, like I never thought that I'd become a teacher, then become an assistant principal. And this is all I talk about,
Yeah.
naked photos and things like that. And then I have to like investigate, and kids share these photos.
Oh yeah.
Then I have to get police involved because this is
Yep.
a minor photo.
Correct.
Then I have to get parents involved. It's a lot.
And
And
it's this is why I
and,
say exposure with education. We do it with our girls too. And there's a lot more to it too. It's not just the nudity aspect of it also, because then you go into the issue that's going on with girls, and that goes more into the reputation demolition and the way that
absolutely.
females bully is these are the tools of destruction. And this is how girls will use it more common. Not to say boys cannot, because guys can be
Hmm.
just recklessly stupid, and that probably falls more
Hmm.
under the boy aspect. But girls
Hmm.
create accounts to destroy somebody, and they do it
Yeah.
deliberately. And this gets into a whole other thing. Not to mention, you get into the girls who are put into high medications, like
Hmm.
they're diagnosed incorrectly most of the time, with
Hmm.
symptoms where they're on high medication and they want to fit in. And our girls, one of them fell for the trap where they wanted to fit in with a friend who was also into very negative algorithms for self-harm, and fell
Hmm.
right into this trap. And so
Hmm.
if you look, that's why I like Dr. Height when he was talking about, like, if you look at what's going on with boys and social
Hmm.
media, the uptick
Hmm.
in issues has gone up like a couple percentage. But
Hmm.
the uptick in young girls, it looks like a bike ramp. It's going whoosh. Like,
Yeah.
this is affecting young women because of the social and acceptance aspect of how women are wired. Young girls are
Hmm.
trying to fit in. They're trying to find their place. They're trying to have the popularity to match. And now it's a global comparison instead of just a community comparison for them to be able
Hmm.
to develop. And it's impossible. And you're
Yeah.
watching so much more harm being done. And they've even shown the studies for girls, if they're kicked out of a group, or they know they're exiled, or they're, ridiculed behind their back by people creating, like you said, a Snapchat group, which we removed from our daughters. They don't have Snapchat. I also
Hmm.
believe it's going to create a lot of social issues within, just having any type of ability to be sentimental. Like, I think it's going to
Hmm.
destroy sentimentality because everything is
Hmm.
designed to be deleted. Everything. So nothing
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that goes long term. There's no photo album for them. Everything I've ever been sent is supposed to disappear. But then also we found too that the reason to have something disappear only invites a lack of consequence. And when you look at choices, people will only go as far as a consequence allows. If there are no
Right.
consequences, then people start doing way different, like very different things. And Snapchat seems to be, they could probably change it to cheat or chat, because it's designed to be, I can send things that are supposed to disappear and no one will ever know. There are no
Yeah.
accountabilities. There's nothing to be caught. So that's an
Hmm.
invitation for doing naughty things, no different
Right.
than Woodstock 99, when you see what happens when these kids have there's no security, no parents, no laws. What does it look
Right.
like? And it's like we burn the place to the ground.
Hmm.
Like,
And that, so one of my friend who's a teacher, she gave me this example. She said her son went to a middle school dance and then he came home. And then she said, well, did you get a chance to dance with, a girl? And he said, well, I didn't know how to dance. And she said, oh my gosh, like when you go to a library, you tell your students, because she's a teacher, this is the inside voice. This is how you walk in. This is how you sit. But she forgot to talk to her son about what middle school dance is like. I mean, I'm sure it's different than when we went to middle school, but just to say you go up to a girl and say, hey, you want to dance? And this is how you dance. And this is where you put your hands. And this is how you slow dance. And so, like, learning that from her, I do that with my son. So we do carpool with, soccer buddies. And I always tell him, you should not be on your phone when you're in a carpool group and a parent is driving. You say, Rick, if you're the driver, you say, hi, Mr. Rick, thank you so much for driving me today. How are you today? And have a conversation with you. And then when you get off the car, you say, thank you so much for taking us to practice today. And those are etiquette that you have to teach your children, because I often drive kids around and they're on their phone. They don't even say hi to me. And then when I pull over to say, hey guys, we're here, and then they just go. And which families are reinforcing, hey, this is what you need to do. And same as how they talk to each other. I often totally eavesdrop on my kid when he's out with his friends, or they're in their room, because I want to hear how they talk. And kids can be very, very mean to each other, especially boys. They're like, you're slow, you're a loser. And I have to really reiterate my son and say, that's not okay. And he says, well, this is how boys talk.
there's
It is
there is
not
a thing
okay to
for
put people
boys.
down.
There is a thing for boys, and this goes for all men. There's
Yeah.
it's a little reversed for the way boys do it, because while it may definitely just objectively fall under this is doing harm,
Yeah.
also it is weird for boys that we harp on each other when we like that guy. So we do that. Like our
Yeah.
guys, even the Warriors way, we'll have fun, but we'll also like go to battle and we'll fight through anxiety, depression, fear, doubt, body dysmorphia, you name it, we'll fight it. But then
Yeah.
after that, we'll rag on each other over your hair's a mullet, or like, goof on each other still, and have a good
Yeah.
time messing with each other, and razzing on each other is also a part of camaraderie and love too. So with boys, there is a healthy way that we do goof
Yeah.
with each other. So it's
Yes.
hard for I know women
The
when they're
woman
doing
to
it,
see it. Yeah.
it's a little cattier, and there's like a lot more like you waiting for you to say just kidding, and it never
Yes.
comes. Be like,
Yes.
oh, those shoes make you look slutty. And you're like, right?
Yeah.
wait, just kidding, right? Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
you say so. It's like, oh no, you
Yeah.
really meant that shit. That was just being mean as fuck. Okay, I see you.
Yes. And I see that. And with girls, we say much nicer things to your face, usually, do a lot of behind the back talk. With boys, they say things they don't mean and they go at it. And some kids could say it back and then everything is okay, but some kids cannot. And so my big thing with my son is you need to read your audience, and you need to also let your friends know, like, if you go after the same kid over and over again, that kid may feel one way. And the nonverbal body communication is so important. Even dating, like when I was single, one of my friends who's a psychologist said you learn so much by just watching people. And it was one of the best dating tips she's ever given me. She said, you just sit and watch.
Mhm.
And Guys are very simple. If they're interested, they're going to
Super
approach
simple.
you.
Super
So
simple.
if they're interested, they're going to call you.
Mm,
If they're interested, they're going to ask for another date. But then women sit around and like, is he going to call me? Is he interested? If he hasn't called, he's not interested, right? You
probably,
move
yeah.
on. And there was that book, He's Just Not That Into You, right? I could have wrote that. I'm like, darn it. Like, that's something I knew back in the day. But that's another thing, right? As adults, when we communicate, we have to read that nonverbal body communication as well.
Sure, yeah, and like it doesn't always work out in people's favor, because I did the same thing too. Just I love watching people on first dates and watching the mannerisms and what they believe, and this is even funnier, what they believe is their
Mm-hmm.
best foot forward. Because people
Mm-hmm.
always try and do what they think is the best on a
Yeah.
first date, and sometimes it's total shenanigans. I'm like, what character are you being today?
Yeah.
Interesting. Like, so they're doing what they think people like the most, but it's funny, like you said with your boy, being able to go like, hey, watch how you go in. I think there's an aspect of when it comes to generational curses and us trying to teach, like I said, if you're getting 10% in, you're lucky
Yeah.
because a lot of the lessons that you're teaching is taught by life because there is a point as a boy where you have to
Mhm.
razz, and then someone goes, stop it, man, or I'll stop you. And you go, like, you ain't gonna do nothing because no one's ever done nothing. And then bam, and they're like, oh, somebody did something. And then later, as guys, we go like, well, I'll razz, but I also understand at some point if I go too far, sometimes I get punched in the face. So I'm more aware of lines now. And
Right.
so that's a natural part of the evolution, at least for boys. And real
Yeah.
talk, I'm going to put it out there, not a proprietor for violence. I think everyone should know what getting hit in the beak feels like because it makes everybody know there's at least a line for humans. Now, am
Right.
I saying like it should be indifferent? I was actually joking with a blind DJ, a guy who's like, he's blind since he was, I think, 4 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we're just going to have our disabled blind guy be the one who does it because he can't see who he's punching. So it's the same for everybody. And then
Yeah.
everybody knows what it feels like to get one of those. Just so you know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're really mean, somebody may have to do that to you to show you that's their line. Am I saying
Well,
everyone should be punching everybody? No. I'm just saying
right.
everybody should know what it feels like. That's all.
So as a school administrator, parents always say you don't start it, but you finish it, right? So that's what people say. I know people say it because my friends, tell their kids. For me, I always tell my kid, if somebody ever hurts you, you walk away. You walk away. And the reason is if he
It doesn't
punches
work.
back,
Doesn't work.
you'll both be suspended. You'll both be
Yeah.
suspended. So as a school administrator, you both, and depends on
Fair.
the violence, you'll
But
both
but
be cited.
I got a question for you. Now, this is
Yeah,
something that gets because I actually was going to create a nonprofit for anti-bullying for this reason.
yeah,
Whatever it is with these parents who want to run your school for you
yeah.
makes it so that a teacher cannot stop a child from beating on another child. Can't grab that kid anymore, right?
Right.
Right. Which means if there's a kid getting completely decimated, who's
Hmm.
coming to save him?
No one.
No one.
Police.
But
Most middle and
what's
high
the
schools have police.
what's the response time?
It, it depends on the size of your campus and
Right.
also where you're fighting, right? And how
Let's
discreet you're being.
let's just give it a middle ground. Five
I would say
minutes.
5 to 10 minutes.
Have you ever been in a combat scenario in your life?
Me personally, no, but I
Okay.
have intervened kids getting in fights.
Okay. Now, I have trained combat training for multiple years. I've traveled the country for combat training. I've been in a lot of fights. Let me
Hmm.
tell you, 5 minute round is a
Is a lot.
lifetime.
Yeah.
If you have somebody, let's just say like somebody twice your strength and size,
Hmm.
pounding on you for five
Yeah.
minutes,
Yeah.
that's like 5 years.
Yeah.
And so to say like the police are coming,
Yeah.
I have a lifetime of beatings I can drop in 5 minutes.
Right.
And I can still get out of there in plenty of time. Like, and
And
so
most
that's
employees
dangerous for
will,
children.
right. And most employees will jump in. Like as an administrator, I had to intervene. I'll do it. But we actually have an assistant principal here in Houston who was hurt trying to intervene a
Mhm.
fight and was hospitalized. So we've had teachers get injured. And so that is not something we tell our teachers, like, you have to do, but we do
Agreed.
train them on how to hold kids to not get hurt. So I've been trained on how to hold children in certain positions so that I don't hurt myself and I don't hurt kids. But I'm only 5'3",
Sure.
and middle and high school boys are
They're
bigger than me,
way
stronger
bigger,
than me.
for sure.
And so that is definitely an issue. And there are, unfortunately, kids fighting on campuses and kids get hurt. And we try to be proactive and make sure that kids are separated before they're going to lunch, or you have people monitoring, or people are on a behavioral plan, and there are all these things that we put in place. But it does happen, and unfortunately kids get hurt.
It's a tough game. And this is where I look at the nonprofit I was going to do is there are
Mhm.
kids who are just good kids, just trying to go to school. They're not trying to pick fights. And bullies, especially men, women do, girls do it too, but in a different
Mhm.
way. They'll choose based on the weakest. That's how they pick
Totally.
their target. They pick their target based on the weakest.
Yeah. And
And
also it's your reaction. Like, if
mhm,
someone says something to you or do something to you and they know they got you,
mhm.
they will continue to go after you, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think on this one, I know we got to you got to go right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's put a
I
pin
I
in
do
this
have a
one.
meeting.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's put a pin in this one. We're going to get into the deeper conversations on this one again.
Yeah.
We're going to schedule and we're going to go longer when we got some more time.
Yes.
But, but I really appreciate you, Doc. Thank you so much for hanging with us. And we're gonna do another episode and continue this conversation. And we're gonna
Love it.
post this, and people can say, "I got questions. I got questions. I got questions," and then we can set it straight. Because I already know I'm going off into the parent side of like, "Hey, what are you supposed to do here?" And you're like, "It's not a fun game on either side here." So
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you so much for
awesome.
having me. This was so fun, and I look forward to our next podcast.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
Bye.